Intertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott, your host, and a man who thinks that all telemarketers should get coal in their stockings this year. And if that doesn't work, they should all be systematically killed. And joining me is reformed telemarketer and intern for Intertalk Radio, Hans Gruber. Hans, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. You having fun down in Intertalk today?
Yeah, I just graduated yesterday, and then I turned in my last graduate paper today. So
you just graduated, and what's the degree in, Hans?
Audio production.
Terrorism. World terrorism. World terrorism. He is a member of the Volksfrei movement. Sorry, that's a deep, diehard reference.
Oh man,
there you go. Like I said, I said a couple of shows ago, it's not Christmas till Die Hard is till Hans Gruber falls off Nakatomi Plaza, in my opinion. Well, sweet. You folks, here's Mark, because you tuned into the big show. Just before we get going, I'll let you know who I am. So I'm Scott. I run a public relations firm called Robertson Communications here in lovely and scenic and quite socialist Orange County, California. And if you want to reach me, you can reach out to Scott at RobertsonCom, 2M's like communication.com, on the website at Robertson, or just RobertsonCom.com, or social. My Twitter handle's at RobertsonCom, or on Facebook, it's facebook.com/RobertsonCom. It all fits together. It's like a branding thing. So this is you're very smart because you tuned into a great episode. This is episode 107 of the big show, and we are calling this one risks and real costs of communicating. You know, the profession, marketing communications profession, has a dirty little secret. Most people who do this work won't talk about it. You can't find it if you search in Google. I just searched on Google today, by the way, and you can't find it. But anybody who does communication knows something about it. And I'm talking about risk. I'm talking about the real risks and costs every single time you decide to communicate. Interpersonally, there's a risk, and organizationally, the risk goes up. So yet companies, line up to, bother their audience and, just excited to sell them something, I guess, and don't really consider the risk side. So today we're going to talk about the risk side. I think it's real important to have a good frame of mind and understand what you're getting into when you decide to communicate. So I'm going to give you the whole truth and nothing but the truth about communications, which you'll pretty much only hear here at the show, because there aren't a lot of articles written about it. I probably should write an article about it or something, get something on the internet about it, but it's not up there. Everyone else is, paying influencers to influence you and buying as many social ads as they can to interrupt your personal mirror time as they possibly can. And they can't be bothered with little things like brand reputation or risk, but I think that we should talk about risk. And I'm excited because this episode, even though it hasn't aired yet, has already won a Clio. It's very exciting. We're also going to talk about who's winning and losing this week. And I'm going to give you a few tips to minimize your own communications risk. So let's get going on it. So basically, the industry has this secret that's really never discussed. Yet everybody who does the work knows at some level that when you decide to, put communications in action, when you decide to go out there and communicate, you are officially at risk. You are drawing attention back to yourself. You are, whatever the status of the relationship is, it won't be the same at the conclusion of the communication, right? And we always talk about that in a positive way, how we're going to, positively impact, a company's brand image, how we're going to positively, just create a stronger reputation and build trust and all these communications outcomes we talk about. But as I always say, communications is a two-edged sword, and it's a two-sided sword, and one side of it can really cut you if you're not really careful with it. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of inherent risk inherent in communicating. And almost everything that we talk about in the winning and losing side, all the losers, they decided to go out and communicate something, honestly, probably something really, really stupid. And then they deserve to, the ones we're going to talk about on the show today, if they would have said nothing, they would be in a superior relationship position to the stupidity that they inflicted on the world, and they made a business decision to do that. So communications is one of the only activities you can have in business where actually being quiet and doing less can actually improve your position and your relationship more than doing something stupid. So you always have to keep that in mind. I think it's really important. There's two kinds of risks that I want to talk about. The first kind is legal risk. And legal risk is gotten a lot of light this year with the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR from the UK. We know Congress has made a lot of noise about creating its own data privacy, laws. California has its own data privacy law that was that, as you heard on this show from our good friend. The privacy attorney earlier this year, we heard that anecdotally that privacy law was created after a very high powered person who had ties to Sacramento had a cocktail party with some people at Google, and they mentioned to him, "Oh, you'd be totally scared if you knew what stuff we knew about you," and that freaked him out enough to create this massively overreaching governmental bill that's going to go into place, which, it really what this is going to do is all of this wild west activity that's been happening for the past 10 or 15 years. Companies, Facebook built its house on knowing exactly who you are, exactly your interests, and they could serve you up exactly the right content, right? Which you don't click on because nobody clicks on sponsored ads, and we think that they're, it's like jumping in front of somebody while they're looking in the mirror at themselves. It has that same effect. So, all of this legal stuff, marketing did this. Marketing created this world, right? The last 2 decades are a great example. Digital marketers, who usually aren't very trained in marketing, by the way, did not exercise what I like to call Jurassic Park logic. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Just because I can make dinosaurs, sure, you can make dinosaurs, and they're cute at the beginning, and that's great, and I'm popping out of the egg, and oh crap, I'm running for my life. There's a full-size velociraptor chasing after my ass. Exactly. That's Jurassic Park logic played out perfectly. And the creators of these little kingdoms, which have totally disrupted the advertising business, have totally disrupted, content and, all these kind of things. I'm talking about the big players. I'm talking about your Googles, your Facebooks, your Instagram, owned by Facebook, Snap, all those people. They created a world where they could get all this data from you, basically make you the product, sell the data out to advertisers, create a revenue stream in that way. And everybody was sort of, okay with that. But then after the Cambridge Analytica thing and Congress started asking questions, then it shined a huge spotlight on this data, free-for-all that these companies were having. And then the kind of no fun police that live in the government said, "Oh, hell no. We're not gonna have this. We're going to do what lawyers in Washington do better than anyone, and that is write laws about things that they know very little about, and that overreach into all kinds of businesses. In this case, it's really going to impact the marketing profession." So I say all this to say that we're talking about risk. Well, communications is about to be really, really risky, because if you get it wrong, you, director of marketing and communications, could actually subject your company to millions and millions of dollars in penalties and fees. And that's going to earn you a trip to the corner that we like to call visiting with in-house counsel and HR about why did you do this, right? And that's coming for you, just so you know. And I'm 1,000% right. So, you check it with any source that you want. The bottom line is Congress is getting ready to drop its own little album that's going to be called The Best of Data Privacy, Regulations and Initiatives, Volume 1, Greatest Hits. From a bunch of people who probably don't know where the on switch is to a computer, they're going to try to regulate this. It's going to be fascinating. And pretty soon, what you're going to have is, and maybe this is the right thing to do, but pretty soon you're going to have a summit meeting before you send anything out. And the summit meeting is going to include the fun people in your company. It's like, these people in your neighborhood. Well, here's the people that are going to be at this meeting: IT, legal, and communications. And this little triad partnership of IT, legal, and communications, this is going to be your life going forward. After about 2020, this is going to be this. The reason that you're going to have all this controls over communications and how we bring in data and how we store it and how we use it and all these kind of things is because a bunch of, let's just say, idiots, really just trashed the place before we got here. Just trashed it. No conscience, no empathy, no actual marketing training. And these people trash the hotel room, and then we move in and everything's sticky, right? That was them that did that. That's one kind of risk. The other kind of risk is every time you communicate, you could potentially trash the relationships that you're trying to build, and you could potentially trash the company's reputation. Many, many companies have trashed their own reputations in hours after doing everything right for 40 or 50 years. Branding is extraordinarily dangerous work. You have a lot of elements that you cannot control, and you must always be on point and have your spider sense tingling for crap that might come at you that you need to be able to manage. And like I said, it's there's basically these two kinds. So the legal kind, which is going to become everybody's going to be well versed in that very soon, and the relationship and reputational kind, which should have been guiding us all along, but really wasn't. If you sit down with people before they're getting ready to send something out, they always talk to you about how great the creative is. They always talk to you about how we're excited to see what kind of impact it can have on there. Never hear anybody say, I wonder what this is going to do for the relationship with our customers. I wonder what this is, what's in it for them. I wonder what is that kind of thing. And those are the kind of flips that we need to be able to do. It's not ever talked about. It's never a part. Find a communications plan in your company and find the word risk in the plan. Do you find it? You can't find it. It's not mentioned. You don't see that, hey, if we do this, we might just be creating a dinosaur and we all might be running for our lives while it chases us after it's killed all our friends at the end of the movie. That can happen. Risk also isn't measured. There's no KPI. There's no status of relationship. Hey, what if we sent this out and now people hate us? What if we didn't send it out and they liked us, but we sent too many things out and now they hate us, right? This is what I'm talking about communication. I'm going to tell you a quick story. So my wife bought a Kia automobile in Carlsbad, California. Lovely, scenic Carlsbad, California. You've seen it. You've seen pictures. So she bought the car. It was great. We enjoyed the car. In the first week that we had it, I was contacted by phone from 4 different departments from the dealership. I was sent 5 or 6 different emails. Well, we just want to know how you like it. We just want to know. We just want to know how was our service? How was this kind of thing? All pretty good intentions. All good intentions. I really started to hate Kia. I mean, I have to say that I really started to hate them. And I was like, if you guys call me again, I'm going to come over there and kick your ass. I'm tired of listening. I'm tired of getting communications from you, And plus, you're scaring me now. I'm like, why? What's with this needy, crazy-ass company that keeps calling me and asking me, are you sure we did okay? Are you sure we did okay? It's like I went to a public relations conference in the city of Detroit. And everybody who was in the city of Detroit came up to me and said, "Hey, what'd you think about Detroit? Not as bad as you thought, right? It's not as bad as you thought, right?" And like everybody was saying that, and it wouldn't. And honestly, I didn't think it was bad to begin with, but I was like, man, these people have a citywide inferiority complex, right? When you over communicate to people, it makes you sound insecure. It makes you sound like you don't think you deserve it, and you're just checking in and this kind of stuff. Back off, Jesus. I mean. That stuff's bad, right? Too much communication. And then companies that think that they're going to personalize things for you. I got an email this week from Geico, and they're talking about my. I have a 19-year-old son, and they said, "Oh, Zachary's going out and he's spreading his wings and he's becoming this great adult. Don't you think that Zachary would feel more comfortable staying with the same insurance company that you guys have had him with and this kind of thing?" And I was like, okay, it's clever. First of all, they used my first name when they addressed me. So if you're going to personalize something, make sure it's their actual name. Because if you call me William, I instantly know that I don't know you. How do I know that? No one calls me William. You've never heard me say it on the show. That's my first name, right? The only people that call me William are the government and companies that don't know me, right? No relationship. So if you're going to personalize, better get it right. Better get it right. That's what I say. Last thing I want to say about this is that one of the reasons I like PR is that there is very little communications risk in PR. And this is never talked about by the profession, but really needs to be. All of the risk for reaching out and communicating with an audience in PR is assumed by the media outlet doing it. Trust is very high, risk is very low, and it can open new doors and new relationships, for brands. So PR is really good for a lot of reasons, but in this new world that's coming, this new world where you can't send stuff out without running it through the triad of legal and IT and communications. And everybody good? We put 3 keys in, see if we can turn them all at the same time. Okay, we're ready to launch, that kind of thing. Well, that crap's going to get old really fast. And so, PR is going to become much more desirable because you can communicate to them. The media absorbs communication. Both legal and reputational risk get absolved because the media outlet, it has the relationship. And the trust factor is very high. I think that's going to be something really important that we're going to need to talk about when it comes to risk. And right now, you are loving life because you're listening to May the Best Brand Win on Air Talk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing this week. We'll see you in a minute.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EnterTalkRadio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey everybody, it is Friday and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. We're hanging out with Hans, who just graduated. Do you have a job yet, Hans? You just
kind of here at the moment.
Is this a job? This is a job, right? Audio production? You're in audio production?
Yeah, I'm working more so with different aspects around it. So it's good. It's good experience for me.
Don't go into porn, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, they may say they need an audio engineer. It's a trick. All right.
I've had a few peers that have won awards for that stuff, but it's weird to be able to put that on your resume.
Yes, exactly. You're like, wait, listen to the ambient noise that I was able to capture in this. You know, this best cinematography goes to. Well, cool, man. Well, it's good to have you on the show. We're going to talk about, let's move into winning and losing. We got some Christmas happenings going on. Hans is back in the studio. All right, so let's start with Christmas. So last week we talked about Baby It's Cold Outside, and of course, people had complaints, and they thought that they didn't want to air the song. Radio stations everywhere, and we're not going to air Baby It's Cold Outside because of the Me Too stuff, and we talked about how dumb that is, and all of that. But it's back on the air in San Francisco after thousands of Bay Area listeners demanded its return this week. And you know, some people said they didn't like the lyrics, which they compared to Date Rape, because there's specifically the line, "What's in this drink?" And then the woman says, you know, I ought to say no, no, no. And then the man says, at least I'm going to say I tried, and this kind of thing. But as I'm sure you know by now, this song was written a long time ago, right? So if you're bringing in Date Rape to it, that's again, like we talked about last week, that's a contextual thing. And that's a societal contextual thing that works like today. But when the song was written, none of that stuff was a thing. That didn't exist. Nobody, you know, drug people's drinks and that kind of thing. And they certainly didn't write songs about it if they did. So I say this is winning. I say it's winning because people are realizing, well, some people are realizing just how dumb and how much of an overreach sometimes some of the Me Too stuff can be. And if this one doesn't prove it, there's another one that I found just this week that say some are saying that it's time for a female or a gender neutral Santa. Somebody did a survey, and the survey was conducted by a logo design company, asked 400 people on how to rebrand Santa and make him more modern. Now, obviously, the idea of having a female Santa, that's kind of dumb. Here's what I want to comment on. How clever is that for a logo design company that you haven't heard of to get their name in all this thing by just basically doing a 400-person survey? And I've seen this story get picked up nationally, and basically talking about if you could rebrand Santa for modern society, what gender would he be? And 70% said they'd like to see Santa as a male, of course. 28% said they would like to see Santa rebranded as a female or gender neutral. I don't even know what that looks like. I got to say, gender neutral Santa, you know, because of the beard. I mean, that leads you to a gender, I would guess. But what I want to talk about is the marketing behind it, right? The story is dumb, and you can blow it off and say, yeah, that kind of thing. I think it's genius. I think because the company came up with what an interesting way to do a little bit of research, pay a little bit of money, you know, for research, and then push this out via PR. And how clever is that? And obviously, the logo design company may not make it into every story, that kind of thing. People might just go with the headline of, you know, rebranding Santa and that kind of thing. But I think this is a great example of what you can do when you're sitting around and just obviously, it's too late for the holiday season this year. But when you're thinking about the holidays next year, look around and say, is there anything that we could do? What I like about it is the question was how they could rebrand Santa, and they're a company that brands things, right? Smart, right? So they talk about rebranding Santa and that kind of thing. Great, and then all kinds of great PR off of this. All kinds of great PR that's going to really certainly help this company. Name the company's Graphic Springs. You can see their name in a few of the stories. Not every story pick their name, but I use it as an example of, you don't always have to be, selling stuff. Hey, I got this product, I got this kind of thing, that kind of thing. You sometimes can be really creative and really clever and not spend a lot of money on something and get picked up everywhere and have something kind of really, interesting. So think about that for next year in your travels. That's important and a very cool example. And I would definitely say winning. You know who else is winning? Social media for the first time is topping newspapers as a news source for U.S. adults. Now, it's not true that everyone gets their news from Facebook and Twitter. But it is true that U.S. adults get their news from that more U.S. adults now get their news from social media than from printed newspapers. According to a new report from Pew Research Center, and that's who you want to pay attention to, social media has for the first time surpassed newspapers as the preferred source of news for American adults. However, social media is still far behind other traditional news sources like TV and radio. If you want to see the all of the data on that, I would suggest going to an article written by Sarah Perez at TechCrunch.com this week, and it was the survey was picked up a few other places, but it's still pretty fascinating. You still see that TV is dominating, but you see that social media is climbing up there as a news source. This is another reason, by the way, when we talked about some of the legal risks and protections, one of the reasons that Congress is afraid of social media is the fact that U.S. adults are getting their news directly from it, are directly using it as a superpowered kind of word of mouth kind of thing. So anyway, I think I would definitely say social media is winning this week. Should we talk about this story? So lots of negative economic news this week. And it all seems to come from a couple of places. But a survey came out about U.S. chief financial officers. And basically it said that 48.6% of U.S. chief financial officers believe the United States will be in recession by the end of next year, according to this Duke University Global Business Outlook survey released on Wednesday. And the headlines for this were so incredibly irresponsible for the news. They basically said U.S. headed for recession, recession. First of all, you don't know that. A recession in this country is governed by, consumer spending, right? So if consumer spending isn't falling and there is zero evidence to support anything that says that consumer spending has trailed off or is, in fact, our economy is so hot. The only two things that have slowed down our economy are the Federal Reserve and the stock market. And the stock market, a lot of things can affect the stock market. That's not always an indicator of the health and strength of the economy. The economy is very, very hot right now. Maybe it's going to continue to grow at a slower rate. It's hard to grow at the massive rate that the economy is growing at right now. Unemployment is at a low for like a 50-year low, I think, right now. It's really insane just how great the economy is doing. And yet all the media news that I saw this week was all about, hey, man, by 2020, this economy is going to suck. It's going to be a total thing. And, folks, there is such a thing as a media recession. Here's how it works. All the people start to believe the news that's coming out that says that there's going to be a recession. And then instead of buying that boat and instead of buying that piano and instead of buying that new car, they say, I don't know, recession's coming over. Maybe we better look at ways we can cut and we can stop spending. And our economy here in the good old US of A is built on spending. So if people stop spending because they've read too many news reports that say a recession is coming, that will slow down and destroy our economy. Without a doubt. Doesn't matter what the data points were before that or anything else. If people stop spending money because they are afraid, because they were induced into fear by the media, then it will absolutely trigger a recession. And then the media, will finally have a story right. It'll be amazing. I would encourage you to reject this negative news about the economy. If you work in PR and communications, most of us don't ever believe the news. I think one of the reasons we don't ever believe the news is because we influence it so much. And we're like, well, if I can influence it, then it's obviously, grain of salt time. That's really a good way to say it. Most people in PR really kind of have a huge grain of salt factor. If you, put a story out there, we're always looking to see who's the source. Is this a credible source? And by the way, a survey that says almost... The data doesn't even say what they said. They said nearly half of U.S. CFOs fear a 2019 recession. Well, what is the other side of that headline? More than half of CFOs say there's not going to be a recession. But that's not the headline, right? The data has 48.6%. 48.6% isn't even a majority. You can't even use the headline, a majority of CFOs fear a recession. So do you see what I'm saying? The media want to tell a negative story. For whatever reason, they want this country to be in a recession. My guess is it's not like an insidious thing where they're twisting their evil mustache in a room somewhere. Bad news sells, folks. Bad news sells and fear sells. And so the news business knows how to incite fear and create it for their own personal gain, which is ratings and that kind of thing. But my advice to everyone would be, let's look at the real data. And the real data says that more than half of U.S. CFOs say there's going to be no recession. The economy is very hot right now. It's very unlikely that it's going to slow down very much. It's going to be growing for a good long time. And, things are good. It's like enjoy the win, man. That's what I say. I do want to talk about this one for a second. So there's a PR agency that did a PR agency for this women's march. Really got into trouble this week because they sent out this really bizarre off-the-record email to reporters who tweeted about a recent expose of the progressive group by Tablet Magazine. So basically, this women's march sent a lot of journalists this email that said, "We saw you tweeted Tablet's article regarding the women's march linked here," began the email. "The Tablet is in the process of making several corrections to the story. We have a list of fact checks we submitted to Tablet with corrections. Before we share the fact check, can you confirm what I'm sending you is off the record and will not be published? If you are interested in publishing any parts of the fact check below, will you contact us first to secure our agreement?" This is not how public relations works, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This is completely, it is so far outside of the realm of what you should be doing when you're communicating with journalists. First of all, I may have to do an entire show on this, but there is no such thing as off the record. And do you know what journalists started doing when they received this? What do you think that they did? What do you think the journalists would do? Yes, exactly. They took screenshots of what you sent them, and then they published it, saying, "Look what the Women's March sent us. They sent us this thing and said it's going to be off the record, and they're afraid, and they're looking for replies, and they're going to send us the corrections. They're not going to send us corrections, and please note we are sending this to a number of reporters who shared the article." I mean, this firmly goes in the category of who the hell do you think you are? I mean, you're a women's march and this kind of thing. Tablet did an expose on you that was unflattering. A bunch of people retweeted it, and you feel like you have the gall to send them, with no relationship, by the way. Relationship would help this a lot, but with no relationship, you send to a bunch of anonymous people who retweeted and say, "We have a bunch of fact checks, but before we send you those, we just want to make sure that you're going to change the story that you wrote," and this kind of thing. Journalists aren't going to do that. I mean, here's my advice to the PR agency for the Women's March. learn how to do public relations. Get a book, listen to this podcast, get a mentor, learn how to do what we do for a living. None of the crap that you have done here is representative of what our profession does. In fact, it's just dumb. It's completely dumb and out of place. And it's just, you deserved all of the criticism that you've gotten for responding to this. You have deserved that and a lot more. And you need to take some classes is what I would say. Very important. Losing in a big way. KFC's winning though, because they have created and debuted a fried chicken scented fire log just ahead of Christmas. So basically KFC just is genius, right? They created a KFC scented Envirolog, which is said to smell like, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And of course they sold out of them, immediately because it's a fun novelty thing, and probably smells like fried chicken. And hey, why not fill the house with the smell of fried chicken? That could be fun. So here's what I think's genius about it. The quote is great from the chief marketing officer. It says, "At KFC, we've always been proud of our role of bringing loved ones together at the dinner table around a bucket of our world-famous fried chicken." And it's so well done, right? They create this log that smells like fried chicken. They sell out of it immediately. They get all kinds of press for doing this. And you know what's genius about it is the fact that you can't think about this story and not think about the smell of fried chicken. And if you like fried chicken and all of a sudden you're thinking about the smell of it, oh, it smells pretty good. Then you're like, well, now I'm hungry for some fried chicken. I mean, I bet you they spike sales like crazy with this. Not just with the fire log thing, but with the whole stunt, because it gets everybody talking about how great KFC is. And if you're getting ready to have a holiday party or gathering or something, you're like, yeah, you know what? Instead of getting that grilled tasteless dry crap from El Pollo Loco, I'm going to get me some KFC. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was watching the football game last week, and I was thinking about the smell of fried chicken. I went out and got some chicken. That's what I'm saying. So, that stuff can work. And I think that KFC is just all kinds of winning for this. It's just all kinds of smart and great, and they just deserve, so much praise for what they're doing and how the whole stunt, played out was just fantastic. And you're fantastic because you were listening to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, and a man that is coming back in segment 3 with some tips to help you mitigate your communications risks in the risky world. See you in a minute.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EnterTalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. You are super smart, still tuned into the big show. May the best brand win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott. I got Hans with me. Hans is searching the one ads as he speaks, looking for new jobs in audio porn. And he just listened to Winning and Losing. What did you like this week, Hans? What jumped out at you as
The log. The chicken log.
the fire log? So good. So good. You know, it's great too. They sold out of it completely. They sold out of the fried chicken log because they only made enough to say that they were putting it out there, you know. But obviously the whole thing was kind of a PR stunt to get you thinking about the smell of fried chicken.
It was. I thought it was really interesting, just because smell has so much to do with taste. And so
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, I don't know anybody that actually has one, you know, but I wonder if it. I wonder if it does smell like fried chicken. You know, do you wonder that, like how they made a fire log that smells like fried chicken?
yeah. What did they lace it and what did they do?
Exactly. You don't know. I guess you can put artificial smell stuff in everything, but fried chicken smell, that's fascinating to me. And you know, like I said, the whole thing is really kind of a PR stunt. You know, and they've done that before with some other things. They did some Colonel branded merchandise, a giant inflatable. They did something in the summertime with some kind of giant inflatable thing that was kind of where they only made like a small amount of them, but then they could just, you know, reinforce their message with that, like a product. Interesting. Well, let's talk about, so the first set, we've been talking about risky business. We're talking about all kinds of risks today, risks in communications. And, you know, I'm going to give you some tips for how you can mitigate your own communications risk. Tip number 1, make sure your legal and your kind of data house is in order. And do this before they make you do it. Really, really important stuff. Sometimes communications will say, "Oh, I don't know. We get lists from IT, and we don't know what IT figures out how our customer names or data is coming in there and our customer relationship management." No, if you're in marketing, you're in charge of relationships. IT is in charge of making sure the network stays up. Okay, I don't know anybody in IT that has any training in building relationships. Go find, if your IT person is a relationship builder, they will be the first that I've ever met that knows how to do that. They have a different skill set, a completely different skill set. So, you know, I have lots of friends that are in IT. I love you guys deeply, but you're not going to be in charge of relationships for the company because you suck at relationships, to be honest. So we're not going to do that. That's just not going to work. So make sure that you, marketing, is involved when you're talking about how your data is coming in, how it's being stored. The storage question is going to come up big time when this California data privacy initiative hits and the thing from Congress is coming to hit. So just be ahead of that, I would advise. And then, look through and say, do we need all the data that we're collecting too? That's going to be another question that you want to be asking. But one way to really kind of mitigate your risk is to make sure that you don't have any additional data that could be breached, that could be that you'd have to apologize for later. Oh, we had a breach. We're Starwood, and we had all this credit card information and this kind of thing. It's like you don't need that credit card information. There are third parties that lock that stuff up in a box, man. You don't need to be housing that on your servers. It's very, very dangerous for you to have credit card information stored on your servers. Anyway, any IT person would advise you to look for some kind of third party place to lock that up and peg into when you need it, that kind of thing. There's a lot of ways you can do that. I'm not going to go into that in incredible amount of detail, but suffice it to say, when I say get your legal and data house in order, remember I told you the team that's going to be formed? You should get in front of that. The team that you're going to need, the team that you're not going to have a choice to form is going to be legal, IT, communications. Okay? Make friends with legal. Figure out who the hell's in IT. Go buy them a Snickers bar, and a Mountain Dew, something like that. Get them together. You're going to need to form your own little coalition inside your company that's going to be responsible for doing this. And like I said, don't wait until Congress passes these laws to do it, right? I mean, just get in front of it. I definitely would advise that. You got to start understanding that that's what's coming, and you need to make sure that all of those pieces are kind of together, legal protection, the IT capabilities to kind of bring in and house data and get a list and manage opt-outs and all that fun stuff that comes with that. So just make sure that piece is in order. Number 2, the E word, man. Use empathy. You want to eliminate risk? Put yourself in their shoes. Okay? All the situations that I was talking about before, the Kia thing, all they have to do is utter this sentence out loud. I just bought a car. How many times do I want and or need to hear from the company to keep my relationship with them positive? And the answer is probably maybe once. But like 4 or 5 and 4 or 5 emails and all these kind of things is like, it borders on stalking a person. It really does. Empathy. Empathy wipes away all of this stuff. If you are in the meeting and you say, wait a minute, I noticed that we retarget our customers and we keep sending them the same ad until they buy. What the hell's the matter with us? No, I wouldn't even say it that way. I would just say it this way. Why are we doing this? Have we thought about what it means to be them? Have we thought about, using empathy as our secret weapon? Do that. Believe me, that is all great communications, in my opinion, begin with empathy. It's really, really important. Hey, Hans, can you turn off the mic there? I can hear everything you guys are saying in the booth. There you go. So again, tip 2, using empathy. This is absolutely our secret weapon. And it's not done at all, by the way. A lot of these digital marketing companies, people are just targets. People are just just a target. We're trying to convert them. We're trying to move them down the funnel, the customer journey, as we talked about last week. You got to watch out for these digital marketers. They got different ideas in mind of what success is. Success to them is, we converted this many people and we had this funnel and we created all this kind of thing. They're not in the relationship business always. They're in a different business. So you need to make sure, because marketing needs to be in the relationship business. And the relationship business includes listening. And again, just tip number 2, like I said, empathy. You start with empathy, you're in a good place, right? PR is a good of all the marketing sort of disciplines and things that you can use. PR is a great one to be in charge of what we're talking about here, because PR automatically uses empathy, because we've been taught how to do it, because we have to use empathy in order to get our stories placed. We have to be really empathetic with what the reporter is trying to do. We have to have great knowledge of what they're trying to do, and we have to be really valuable to them, and it has to be all about them and that sort of thing. So, PR has that kind of empathetic piece built into it already. Tip number 3, measure, the amount of communications that you're doing and find a way, if you can, find a way to measure the impact of your communications on relationships, especially, like I said, and that's not just like a vanity metric so we can say, yay, we did communications and now people still like us. What you want to know is, do our comms drive people away? Do our communications drive people away? Are there parts of the organization that are communicating? When I first started at NAM, I walked around quite a bit, and NAM made a lot of phone calls, back in those days to members. And I would notice that all of the different departments were contacting members and selling, or talking to them about what they were doing. Oh, did you get your trade show badges yet? That kind of thing. Oh, have you signed up for the insurance program or the credit card programs, or have you bought any books from the professional development department? And then what I started to notice is that the same organization, different people in the same organization, were communicating with the exact same members, sometimes in the same day. And then I started to say, oh my God, talk about empathy. So from the member's perspective, you're running a music store, and you get a call from different parts of your association 2 or 3 times in the same day that asks, different questions. Well, you think that association has lost their mind. I mean, if I got a call from 3 different departments in my association, I don't know what I would do. I got to say, and so we knew we needed to fix that, and that all comes from good intentions, right? That every department had good intentions about doing its job and trying to service the members. However, when you put it all together, it became this kind of big mess, that was going out to the members, and thankfully we did find a way to fix that. But the way that we fixed it was we started to measure the amount of communications. We started to have a master schedule and say, look, first of all, we have to have the realization that there's just one list here. There's not every department has a list. There's just this one big list, and everybody's got to wait their turn or find a shared medium that we can, reach this audience with, that kind of thing. And I bet you run into that in your companies too. You have, because departments are kind of set up to run like independent little companies. And sometimes they run a little bit too independently, and sometimes they communicate independently. And when they communicate independently, now you got brand risk and you got brand damage that could happen, because now you got the Kia situation, you got the NAM situation, the old NAM situation, where you have multiple entities, trying to communicate with the same person, and that person just wants to call the police and say, I'm being stalked. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. Could you send a squad car right away? And it's important to know that stuff. It really, really is. Number 4, and this will help you in the future, incorporate public relations in a big way. We talked about one of the greatest things about PR is the fact that it has very little communications risk. All of the risk, reaching out to the audience, that kind of thing, is assumed by the media. The companies that are being covered and that kind of stuff have no risk in reaching out to the audience through the media, right? Trust is very high. You have almost zero risk. Again, it can open up new doors. Learn how to attract an audience to you and not interrupt them. Again, that comes back to empathy, right? You don't like being interrupted. They don't like being interrupted. We don't like being interrupted, okay? And marketing needs to learn that we don't like being interrupted. Really, really key stuff that when you think about it and you look at your communications plan and ask yourself the question, how many times are the things that we're doing interrupting people? And how many times are the things we're doing trying to attract people to us? Right? Very, very important tip. And my last tip is stop all the risky practices that are going on. Things like telemarketing, retargeting, doing kind of creepy personalized communications where you don't really know the person, but you're trying to address them by first name, or you're trying to address them by, some kind of piece of information that you have from them. First of all, let's go back to the Geico thing. Yes, my son's age. Yes, he is of that age, And yes, he is out on his own, spreading his own wings and that kind of thing. But we don't have the kind of relationship where you can talk to me about my son. I'm sorry, we don't. You are a car insurance company, and you got a cute little lizard who's funny, and I watch on football, and I laugh my butt off, and I say, that's a funny lizard. I dig that. Funny. And their other ads are really, really funny as well. But we don't have the kind of relationship where you can evoke emotion in me and start talking about my son by name, by the way, by name, when you got my name wrong, and basically start saying, Zach's spreading his own wings, don't you feel like, you'd feel better if he had us as a car insurance thing? And then I go, A, that's creepy as hell. Honest to God, that is creepy. I said, and B, if he's spreading his own wings, shouldn't he be free to find his own car insurance company? I don't care. Zach is 19. He's a man. He can make his own decisions. Part of making your own decisions is finding your own damn car insurance. You know what I mean? So the whole idea of that they tried to do, backfired. And I just read the whole thing with like this look on my face, like I feel like I want to get the authorities involved in this. It's like, what the hell? Why are you contacting me and talking to me about my son? Why don't you contact him if you got such a good relationship and he's spreading his wings or whatever? Why don't you go contact him? So it's just, we do a lot of risky practices in our communications. Every company that telemarkets me, I hate you. I absolutely hate you. Let me give you a spoiler alert. When the time I pick up the phone, I hate you. If you waste my time in any way, I hate you that much more, right? It's all hate. Don't do that. Don't do stuff like that. Don't put your brand in a situation where people are going to hate you. Don't send people the same ad over and over again until they buy. Apple doesn't do that. Apple doesn't need to do that. And if you ask Apple why they don't do that, they say, well, because we're not needy. And maybe you're not good enough for our products. After all, let's look at you for a second. They have a way of kind of making you feel like, well, you're lucky to be here, to be honest. So what have we learned today, folks? We've learned that the risk is real, and it must be factored into any communications campaign or effort. The law will soon force marketing to do what it should have been doing a long time ago: exhibit empathy and care about relationships more than short-term sales. That's how you're going to build brands. That's how you're going to drive sustainable, real growth. We can and we must be better. The future of what we do absolutely depends on it. That's it from me, folks. Until next week, this has been Scott Robertson from May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio. We'll see you next week with a fresh show. Rock on. Thanks, Periscope. Take it easy.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?